Hey everyone, it is Evan here from theTradeRisk.com, and in today's video, we're going to be going over some scanning and specifically scanning for breakout setups using Worden TC2000. We're going to be walking through a few different examples, the actual code, the personal criteria formula code to duplicate everything on your platform. We're going to talk about the thought process. We're going to run through a few scans. So hopefully this will be a good guide for you, just a well-rounded sort of guide for scanning, and we're specifically looking at breakout and momentum scans. So if you are just finding this video natively on YouTube, we do have a blog post with all of the information kind of wrapped up in post format, so you can just kind of glance through that. You can copy the PCF code off of the article. I'm going to link it up in the top right-hand corner now. And in the description of this video, I will put out some of the sections that you can jump to if you want to jump to specific scans or just get right into the code. I'm going to try and put the timestamps in the description of this video. We also have some other TC2000 videos on our YouTube channel, so you can skip around to those, check out the playlist, and again on theTradeRisk.com you'll find some other articles there as well. So I think that covers all the bases here. One other comment I'll make is I'm recording this video in TC2000 version 18.0. So the problem with doing walkthroughs and guides is that they tend not to age well if TC2000 updates the platform. The keystrokes might be a little different. The good news is you know, I've been using TC2000 for a long time. The product's been out for over 20 years. They tend to maintain all of the same features, but the actual keystrokes, the menus, that might change a little bit, but hopefully you can sort of follow along here. Version 18.0. And I think that is it. So let's jump into it here. There are three different breakout scans that we are going to look at, breakout or momentum. Now let's sort of clarify some of the terminology here, and it does get a little confusing, but the actual scan, so we're going to look at three different scans. The actual scan is the final product, is the final result, but what goes into scans are individual conditions. So we're actually going to build out a handful of different conditions, which will then represent one complete scan, and there are three scans in total. So it'll become a little bit more clear as we sort of work through the workflow here. And in version 18.0, TC2000 sort of revamped their easy scan process, and I think they're trying to make it a little more intuitive. It's been a bit of a cumbersome or intimidating process to scan in TC2000 because you have to know you have to at least be able to code and use some of their personal criteria formula syntax. And if you don't know how to write some basic kind of scripts, it's tough to do some efficient scanning in TC2000. The positive side with TC2000 is it's got that learning curve to get started, but it's really powerful because you can actually, the fact that they have their own syntax available for you to write, you can be a lot more flexible and create more powerful scans than just a web version, drag and drop version of scanning where you have to work through defaults. You can actually customize everything as specific as you'd like it to be. So let's jump in here. The way we're going to approach the scanning process here, the workflow, is we're going to use this easy scan button, and we are going to create conditions and then condition sets. And that is, again, the new part in version 18.0. In the past versions, if you're using a Mac or if you're using an older version of TC2000, generally you're going to click on this new tab and you're going to click new condition / PCF formula. They can both get you to the same end result. And in fact, when we create conditions, they create a condition and a PCF formula, so they show up in two different places. But I think the easier version, and this is, I believe, what TC2000 is trying to go for, is creating conditions and then assembling condition sets to make it a more, just an easier and more intuitive scanning process. So let's jump into it here. So the first condition we are going to write is our breakout scan for stocks hitting new 52-week highs. So again, this is probably something we're very familiar with. This is a very classic, robust scan, and we're just interested in returning the stocks that are breaking to new 52-week highs. So in order to write that condition, we are again going to click on that easy scan button. We're going to click new condition. We're going to be presented with this screen here, and we're going to click write new formula. And this is where we're going to write our 52-week high formula or condition to find these stocks. So first things first, let's give it a name. New 52-week high. Simple as that. And you can feel free to label that whichever you would like. And now here, this box here is where we're going to write the code. And the code for this one is going to be as follows. We're going to use, in fact, just the letter C, which indicates the current closing price, or if you're intraday, it's just the current price. But this is when you use the letter C, it's just going to give you the current last or current closing price, and we're going to make sure that the closing price right now is greater than or equal to the maximum close over the past 252 days. There are approximately 252 trading days in a year. We're going to make sure that the current price is greater than or equal to the last 252, which would indicate that we are at new 52-week highs. We are currently making new one-year highs. And that is it. That is the entire code. That is the syntax there for new 52-week highs. The formula value down here, we're just going to leave that as true, true right now, and the time frame is on a daily chart. Okay, so what you would normally do now is save this condition, and this would save it to your library. I already have this condition saved, so I'm not going to save this right now. What I am going to do though is I'm going to scan in a new window right now, and I just want to show you that this code works, and just the names that will appear on this list. So if we click on the first name here, it's CAE. And again, and let me just take one step back, I am scanning on the entire US common stocks list. So if you want to change the list in which you are scanning on, you can click this drop-down list, and you're presented with a ton of options. So you can scan with just the S&P 500, you could scan on just the Russell 2000. I choose to go for the biggest broad list. So if you type in US common stocks, this is going to include the NYSE, the NASDAQ, all the major exchanges. It's going to strip out the ETFs, and it's going to leave you with a 5,000 plus, I believe, stock list from which you will be scanning on top of. So that is where I chose to scan, is on this list, and you can see down here there are 207 items that return. So there's 207 stocks at the time of running this scan that have broke to new 52-week highs. So CAE, this is the first name, and if we zoom out just a little bit here, you can see we got over a year's worth of data on our chart, and you can see very clearly that today, or this was on Friday, I'm recording this on the weekend, this broke and closed at new 52-week highs. If we hit the space bar, we can just go through these names: AAXN, breaking to new 52-week highs, MON, new 52-week, and again, so here's the way we wrote the scan is new 52-week closing highs. So notice we didn't quite take out the high here back on the 9th, but we did close at the highest price. Okay, and you could make that adjustment if you'd like. Just you want new 52-week highs. You want to be above the highest high point, but we just chose to use 52-week closing highs. And you can go right down this list, and they all fit the bill. So that is the condition. That is our first breakout condition that we're going to work with. And we're going to combine this. We're going to make this a little more interesting, because these 207 names, they may not have some other technical conditions that we'd like to see at their back, right? So maybe they're not liquid enough. Maybe they're not trading at a high enough price. Maybe they're not breaking out on high volume. Those are some things we're going to add in here. We're going to make this a little more complete scan. But for now, that is the first condition. And we're going to walk through a couple of other breakout conditions. So 2 other breakout conditions, 3 in total, and then we'll walk through some of those other technical criteria. So there's a lot to cover. Let's sort of jump into the next scan. So the next one, again, we're going to click easy scan. You're going to hit new condition. We're going to write new formula. And this condition here is going to be reclaiming the 50-day, reclaiming the 50 SMA. All right, and this could be any, again, feel free to modify this as you wish, but this is a momentum scan that basically says we have reclaimed a significant moving average, in this case the 50-day SMA. You could also choose a 200-day SMA, you could choose a 10-day SMA, you could, anything you'd like. Generally speaking, the 50-day, the 200-day, those are the most common, those are the most prominent, the most well-watched, and generally speaking, when a stock reclaims those moving averages, it tends to get a lot of attention, and it can lead to further kind of upside as there is sort of renewed confidence that the stock has reclaimed this moving average. So reclaiming the 50-day SMA, let me show you how to write this code. So open parentheses, we're going to make sure that the closing price today is now back above the average close of the 50-day of the past 50 days. So this essentially right here says we need to make sure that we're closing above the 50-day simple moving average. But we can't just leave it there, because that would return stocks that have been consecutively closing above the 50-day SMA. That's not what we want here. We want fresh reclaims, right? So you can almost name this like fresh reclaiming of the 50-day SMA. And in order to achieve that, we have to put an AND condition here, and we need to, at the very least, say the close yesterday. So you're going to indicate that by a 1. And again, I don't want to, this video would go very long if I did a full, complete sort of scripting, programming dive here into the syntax. So you're going to have to take my word that we are writing proper code here. But this is the close yesterday was less than the average 50 days yesterday. So in other words, we're saying we're above it today, we're above the 50-day now, but we were below it yesterday. And that tells us that, okay, we suddenly have reclaimed this. And if you wanted to be rigorous, you could actually say and you could go back and say it was below the 50-day 2 days ago, 3 days ago, 4 days ago, last week, and you could be more strict depending on how fresh of a reclaim that you're looking for. But at the very least, this will do the job. And again, you're going to click save here. And I'll save it as well, just to show you what that looks like. Fresh reclaiming the 50 SMA, and you can hit save. And in order to run that scan now, we're going to go to easy scan, and we're going to just type that in. So reclaiming the 50-day. And you can see here, either one of these, I happen to have two. So if we click on that fresh reclaim, here's what we just did. And if we hit scan now, there are 135 names on the US common stocks list that have just reclaimed the 50-day SMA. So let me show you what that looks like. If we drop these other moving averages off my chart, I'm just going to clean up my chart a little bit. We hit the plus arrow here, we type simple moving average, we add it to the price, and there we go. Simple 50-day moving average, this yellow line is now on my chart. So now let's look at MICT. So what we can see here is if we zoom in, the stock was below it yesterday, and it is now closing above it today. Now, again, this may not seem too interesting to you as it stands. Maybe you want the 50-day SMA to make sure it's sloping up. Maybe you wanted it to be below the SMA for multiple days in a row. Those are all things you can sort of build on top of. But for the scope of this video, it would go on for hours if I took all the different derivations. So hopefully this makes sense to you. But let's kind of just hit spacebar. Notice here, save airlines. It's been, so for this case here, this has been below the 50 SMA for the past almost 2 months of trading. And you can see this was the first close above it. Volume had a slight uptick here. So this might be something interesting for a momentum or a breakout trade. Again, I'm not advocating that this is a strategy. I personally don't necessarily even trade this specific thing myself, but I know a lot of people that like to. And again, maybe the slope of the moving average is something you'd want to add in here as well. We're going to show you how to add some of those other technical conditions, but you can kind of zoom down here. This one here only trades 66,000 shares. So again, maybe a volume constraint there, and we're going to add in some other things to sort of give us a little more confidence in the scan. But I think you see what we've scripted here, new closes above the 50 SMA when it previously was below it. Okay, so that's our second scan we're going to build out in this video. And finally, the third one is we're going to click on easy scan. We're going to hit new condition. We're going to write new formula. And this is the third momentum breakout scan. And this is simply a breakout above last week's highs. Okay, very simple, but it's kind of a small little, you know, it gives you a little bit of a more of a micro sort of short-term momentum breakout signal. But it's when we break out above the prior week's highs, you can get a nice little expansion higher there as more confidence comes in that we are, you know, clearing above the prior week's range. So in order to write this scan, very, very simple. We're simply going to say the close today has to be greater than the high yesterday. But the key with this scan is we need to make sure the time frame now is on a weekly chart. So right down here, so its close is greater than H1. Formula value is going to stay true. True is going to stay now. Time frame, though, changes to weekly. Okay, you can save that scan. I'm going to just scan for it now. And you can see there are 1,100 names here, so a lot of names. And if we click on BA, this would, you know, this here is saying we're above last week's highs. But if we go to the weekly chart here, now you're going to see, yes, we are above last week's highs. And again, we are above last week's highs. We are above last week's highs. So this scan, again, might not be so interesting by itself, but when we start adding in some other technical criteria, which we're about to do now, this can give you some kind of short-term, you know, a nice little momentum lift in the short term. So those are the three conditions for breakouts and momentum. Now let's pair them up. Let's make them a little more interesting. Let's not just look at 1,100 names like in this case. Let's narrow it down just a little bit. So we're gonna again just go right back down, or go right back up to our easy scan, new condition, write new formula. And the first thing we're gonna add here is we're gonna say we want to make sure that these stocks that we're looking at are actually in an uptrend. Right? Because these are all long biased scan. These are all scans to the upside. We want to make sure that these candidates are in an uptrend. We don't want to be trying to buy breakouts or momentum in a downtrend, right? So we're gonna write up our first. I'm going to call this just a long-term uptrend, and you could or you could simply call this. We're going to use moving averages, so it's going to be the 50 SMAs over the 200 SMA. You can again label it whichever you like, but the way I'm going to define an uptrend in this case is I'm simply going to say I want to see the 50 period SMA above the 200 period SMA, and I want to see price above all of them. So the way we're going to write this out here, I'm going to give you the code. We're going to say the close today has to be above the 50 period SMA, and the 50 period SMA has to be above the 200-day SMA. So that's the code right there. So we're saying the close, we're closing above the 50 period SMA, and the 50 period SMA is closing above the 200 SMA. A very simple filter for stocks in an uptrend. You can certainly change the moving average duration here. If you're a shorter term swing trader, you may want to change this to a 10 period SMA and a 50 period or a 20 period or a 30 period. So feel free to change that, but that would give us some confidence here that yes, the stock has been historically moving up and to the right. It is in an uptrend. Therefore, this is going to give us a better sort of candidate for our breakout scans. So again, I already have this saved, so I'm not going to save mine. We could scan for this. It doesn't really matter. This, again, 1,600 names, so there's lots of stocks in an uptrend. But when you hit save, we're going to eventually build out a full condition set. So make sure you save yours. We're going to close this out, and we're going to add another one. So we're going to go to easy scan, new condition. In fact, I think I'm going to actually show you the other conditions that I have built out. So if we actually just go to Easy Scan and I click on My Conditions, so here are the conditions that I was planning on showing you in this video. I've already built them out just for a little simplicity. So we just showed you stocks in a long-term uptrend. That's the 50 SMA over the 200 SMA. The next one I want to show you is the bullish RSI level. So stocks with bullish RSI. So if I click on this little thunderbolt here, and I click on this, lots of clicking, but here is the code. So again, if you're going to duplicate this, just click easy scan, new formula, and then type in stocks with bullish RSI, and here is the code. RSI, 14 period RSI is greater than 50. And what this gives us is stocks that are in a bullish RSI zone. And the reason that is significant, or the reason people like to include it, again, there's no must-haves here. I'm not saying this is a system or a strategy or types of stocks that always work, but they're just interesting kind of bullish momentum breakout candidate criteria, is that stocks that are above a 14 period RSI tend to be in a bullish zone, and tells us that we haven't seen a pullback to really decrease momentum, right? So in other words, the RSI is kind of a momentum condition, technical indicator. And if it starts falling below 50 and it starts getting into the lower, closer to zero, that's telling us that momentum is very weak. There's not much momentum. The stock's been historically behaving pretty poorly. And when we're talking about breakouts, momentum candidates, and these types of scans that we're looking for, we really want to make sure that the stock is holding up from a momentum perspective. And you can replace RSI with MACD. You could change it to, even stochastics, or whatever your favorite sort of momentum oscillator is, could probably work here, would have a similar effect. But in this case, we're just saying RSI is above 50. That's where we'd like to see our bullish names adhere to. All right, so we're gonna hit OK, save that, and I'm gonna show you how to build all this out later. But we can close this out, and then next we're gonna look at another condition, and this condition here is going to be 20-day volume, or average volume. Or actually, no, we're going to look at breaking out above average volume first. So if we click on this little thunderbolt here, and we click on this, and we click on this, this here is a condition that says, I want to make sure that the volume today is above the average volume of the past 20 days. So this is another condition that says, hey, let's make sure that when we're running this scan, when we're looking for stocks, that the stock is breaking out on heavier than average volume. So this is a condition that, again, pairs very well with these breakout momentum long biased scans. Very simply, I'm using the 20-day average volume. You could make sure that it's 200% above. If you like big volume, you could say 300% above. You could use a 50-day average volume. I like 20 days just because that's the style of trading that I do. But you could easily change that to 50-day and and certainly get that same effect. So that is the average volume criteria. Now let's look at, for our next condition, let's look at just the average volume in general. So we want to make sure that the stock is trading at least 300,000 shares per day. And this time we're just saying the average 50-day volume is greater than 300,000. And that just says, that's just my volume constraint. Some people need less than that. Some people want more than that. I just want to make sure the stock is liquid enough. Like we looked at one of our scan results, it only traded 60,000 shares. That's not liquid enough for me, or I just prefer to see stocks that are trading more than 60,000 shares. So I like a 300,000 threshold. Again, you may find it less or more, but we're going to make sure that that's included in all of our scans. And I think there's only one left. And if we go back to my conditions, I want to make sure that we have price over $10. And very simply, that is a formula that is the close today is greater than 10. And that just says, let's make sure we're trading stocks that are over $10. Again, you may not find that interesting. You may only want 5, you may want 20, you may want 100. You can feel free to add, include, or modify that as you see fit. So those are the conditions that you'd want to save out. And again, I know I've gone fast here at this point, but if you go to the article format, I have all of the actual code listed out that you can just easily copy and paste it right into TC2000 if that's easier. And now we're going to finally get into the good stuff here, the final result. We're going to show you how to package everything we just wrote up into a complete sort of easy scan for the breakout conditions we outlined at the top of this video. So hopefully you're still sticking around. I know kind of jumping around, going fast. Again, leverage the article format because that sort of takes it step by step in perhaps a little neater of a fashion. So we have presumably at this point all of the conditions built out. So if you click on My Conditions, you're going to want to build out the 5 or 6 that we went through. Or actually there will be even more if you include the first price breakout ones. But now we're going to create a set. So we're going to create a actual set which will build out a complete scan. You can see I have a lot of scans here, but we're going to click on this new conditions set, and this is going to be like your final scan that you're going to actually apply and run to a stock list. So in this case, we can label ours, let's start it right from the top again, new 52-week high breakout scan, right? And then we're going to actually pull in, when we click on add conditions, we're going to just type what we labeled and named each of the specific conditions that we just wrote out. So the first one was new 52-week highs. So we wrote this scan out, if you recall, right at the very beginning, close greater than last 252 days, hit OK, and then there you go. That's going to apply that to equal true. We're going to hit new condition, and we're going to add more. We're going to add stocks in an uptrend was one of the conditions that we added. Stocks in a long-term uptrend, that's the 50 SMA is greater than the 200 SMA and prices above both. Then we're going to add RSI, so bullish RSI, stocks with bullish RSI. We're going to add that in there as well. We're then going to add breaking out on above average volume. So we're going to include that in there as well. Next up, we're going to say the average volume has to be above 300,000. We're going to throw that in there. Next up, we're going to say the close has to be greater than $10. Let's see, price over 10. There it is. And I know I'm adding these quick, but these are all the ones that we just went through. And that is it. The only other one I like to add in here myself, I don't generally use the price one anymore, price over 10. I like to use capitalization though. So if you type capitalization, this is saying what is the actual market cap of these stocks. And I generally like to say, let's make sure it's over 100 million. I like 100 million as the minimum. If you start getting below there, it's gets a little more volatile for my type of trading to have a concentrated position in a very small micro or nano cap stock. And I generally don't use the price myself. But this is what a complete scan looks like. Remember, we started with just the 52-week high condition, but then we added in all of these other sort of technical criteria to help qualify the actual, the quality of stocks returned. And again, you can feel free to modify this and change all of these as you see fit. This is just what I see as sort of a robust template to potentially use for these bullish breakout scans. So if we hit scan now, you can see 25 names came back. So remember when we did just the breakout scan at the beginning, we had 200 names. Well, now we have only 25 names, but ideally, these are going to be a more quality set that we want to be paying attention to. And, these are going to be names that I think are, just generally speaking, a little more interesting. So if we go through here, again, you can see these are names now breaking out to new 52-week highs on volume and bullish RSI if we were to throw in all those other conditions. And these are just sort of a tradable universe. It's not necessarily a list that's going to return stocks that we want to jump into maybe specifically on this day, but it's something to add to a watch list or generate some idea flow with, or something just to pay attention to. So that is pretty much it. And again, I'm sorry, I was looking at all these on a weekly time frame. So if I go down to the daily chart and we go back up to the top, you'll see here these are what they look like on a daily chart. So MON breaking out to new 52-week highs above average volume, RL breaking out to new highs on volume or closing at new highs here in DSW. And again, all of the criteria that we added there, 25 names, and I consider these quality names to pay attention to. So that is how you would build out a complete scan here. If you hover over here, you'll see all the conditions. And if we were to close out this one and we say, so I just took off the 52-week high condition. We say, let's do the reclaiming a 50 SMA, and we add that in there and we hit scan. So there's only 3. So if we hit DGX, here's one. Remember, there were plenty more than just 3. I forget how many there were exactly when we first scanned, but now there's only 3 when we add in volume, RSI, uptrend, all these other conditions, volume. So DGX, look at this big breakout above average volume here, reclaiming the 50. NYT, nice above average volume reclaim of the 50 with a stock that's in an uptrend. And SEDG, this one here has been on fire over the past couple of months, really a couple of years. Recently sold off below the 50-day, and now it's getting a bounce on above average volume. So this is, again, how you can just really put all of these conditions together. You can add last week's high in here as well. Let's do that real quick as our third condition, as our third scan. We're going to close this one out, and then we're going to add above last week's highs. And I don't think I saved this one, so let me write it real quick again. Above last week's highs, and we're going to say the close is greater than H1, and we're going to put that on a weekly time frame, and we're going to hit OK, and we will scan here, and we will wait for this to return. And we got 50 names. So we got 50 names above last week's highs, breaking out on volume with an uptrend, bullish RSI, so on and so forth. This scan returned over 1,100 names earlier. When we add in all the other criteria, you can see we're down to just 50. So, I think that wraps up everything I wanted to cover in this video. And apologies for going a little bit long and kind of scrambling amongst the menus here, but hopefully this makes sense. Hopefully you can duplicate everything. Take a look at the article format in the description of this video if you need to jump around and get those links. Any other questions, again, check out if we do have some other videos on TC2000 if you need some help. If you're not a TC2000 user, then we do have a promo code that you can get an introductory offer. It's a referral code, but that should be in the description of this video as well. And if you need some one-on-one consulting, or if you need some one-on-one help with TC2000, building out conditions, I do offer that as a service. I have built out many different, more complex criteria for individual traders that are looking to really, narrow down or do some different scanning or filtering with TC2000. I also, offer that as a paid service. If you have simple questions, though, if you just need some help with syntax or understanding anything we covered in today's video, leave a comment below this YouTube video or on the blog post, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you so much for watching. Questions, do let me know, and happy trading. Thanks so much.